Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of America's most collected coins, the Washington quarter. You might be surprised to learn that some of these ordinary-looking coins can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In this video, I'll show you the top 10 most valuable Washington quarters you should be looking for, from key dates like the 1932D and 1932S to rare mint errors that can bring big money. So grab your coin jar, because one of these treasures might be hiding right under your nose. Let's get started. First up, let's rewind to the mid-1960s. During this time, the United States was facing a massive coin shortage. Silver prices had surged, and people began hoarding coins, especially silver dimes, quarters, and half-dollars, hoping their melt value would exceed their face value. The U.S. Mint responded by eliminating silver from quarters and dimes starting in 1965, switching to a copper-nickel-clad composition. To discourage hoarding and collecting, the Mint also made a bold decision. From 1965 to 1967, no mint marks were used on any circulating coins. That's why your 1967 Washington quarter doesn't have a mint mark, even though it was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The intention was to make coins seem less collectible during the shortage. Now, let's take a closer look at the design. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the familiar bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, based on a bust sculpted by Jean-Antoine Houdon. The word Liberty arcs above Washington's head, the motto "In God We Trust" sits to his left, and the date, 1967, is centered below his neckline. The reverse showcases the majestic American eagle with its wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, a symbol of strength and peace. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E Pluribus Unum, crown the top, while quarter dollar is along the bottom rim. Simple, elegant, and enduring, this design remained on U.S. quarters until 1998. Unlike pre-1965 quarters, which were made of 90% silver and 10% copper, the 1967 Washington quarter is composed of a clad mixture, a copper core sandwiched between layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and features reeded edges. This was part of the Mint's strategy to produce durable coins that wouldn't be worth melting down. While many collectors lamented the end of silver coinage, this change allowed for large-scale production and circulation that kept the economy running smoothly during the coin shortage crisis. The total mintage of the 1967 Washington quarter was massive, around 1,524,031,848 coins in total. This makes it one of the highest minted quarters of its time. Since mint marks were intentionally removed, all coins look identical regardless of where they were struck. Additionally, there were special mint sets, SMS, produced in 1967 at the San Francisco Mint. These sets weren't proof coins, but they had a higher quality finish than regular circulation strikes. SMS coins have a smooth, satiny appearance, and collectors often seek them out because they represent the Mint's best efforts during this transitional period. When it comes to value, the condition of your 1967 quarter matters more than anything else. In coin collecting, condition is measured using the Sheldon scale, ranging from poor, P1, to mint state, MS70. A 1967 quarter in fine, F12, condition, which shows moderate wear but clear design details, typically holds only modest collector value because of the huge mintage. However, higher-grade examples, especially those graded MS65 or MS67, can sell for much higher premiums. SMS coins with cameo or deep cameo surfaces are also quite desirable, and some have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. Now let's talk about something every collector loves: error coins. Although 1967 quarters don't have many major varieties, some fascinating minting errors exist. These include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, double dies, and even struck-through grease errors where parts of the design appear missing. These types of mistakes can add anywhere from a few dollars to several $100s to a coin's value, depending on the rarity and visibility of the error. If you find a 1967 quarter that looks odd, misaligned, or has missing letters, it's worth having it authenticated by a professional grading service. So, what's the 1967 Washington quarter really worth today? In most cases, circulated coins found in pocket change or coin rolls are worth only their face value, 25 cents. However, a coin in fine condition, like the one we're discussing, might fetch around 30 cents to 50 cents, depending on the market. In extremely fine, XF, condition, it might be worth 75 cents to $1. Uncirculated coins can range from $5 to $25, while top-graded SMS coins with deep cameo finishes have been known to reach $1,000 or more at auction. Remember, rarity, demand, and visual appeal all play major roles in determining the final price. If you're serious about collecting coins like the 1967 Washington quarter, here are a few tips. First, handle your coins carefully. Always hold them by the edges to avoid fingerprints or damage. Store them in acid-free holders or albums to prevent corrosion. For coins you believe might have extra value, consider submitting them to professional grading services such as PCGS, NGC, or ANAX. These services will grade, authenticate, and encapsulate your coin, ensuring its protection and enhancing its resale potential. Also, stay up to date on auction results and coin value guides. Prices can fluctuate as collecting trends evolve. In conclusion, the 1967 Washington quarter without a mint mark is a fascinating piece of American coinage history, not because it's made of silver or extremely rare, but because it tells a story of economic transition, government policy, and the resilience of the U.S. Mint. While most of these coins remain common and worth only face value, high-grade or error examples can be quite collectible. So next time you come across one in your change, take a closer look. You never know what hidden gem might be sitting in your pocket. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more detailed coin reviews, and leave a comment below telling us what coin you'd like to learn about next up. The Washington Quarter series was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States. The design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, features a striking portrait of Washington on the obverse, that's the front, and the majestic bald eagle on the reverse. These quarters were made of 90% silver up until 1964, but starting from 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. By 1980, the quarter had long been made with this modern material, a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. So, while it doesn't have any silver content, the 1980 Washington quarter holds plenty of historical and numismatic significance. Now, let's talk about the mint mark, or in this case, the absence of one. In U.S. coinage, mint marks identify where the coin was struck. For example, D stands for the Denver Mint, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. But here's the interesting twist. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint had just begun adding the P mint mark to most coins. However, the Washington quarter was one of the exceptions for several years before this. That means a 1980 quarter without a mint mark actually indicates it was produced in Philadelphia. It's not an error, it's just how the mint operated during that era. So if you have a 1980 quarter with no letter under the phrase, "In God We Trust," congratulations, you've got a genuine Philadelphia Mint coin. But what about its mintage numbers? In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint struck a massive number of Washington quarters, over 635 million coins to be exact. That's right, hundreds of millions. Because of this extremely high mintage, most of these coins are considered common. They were circulated widely across the United States, meaning that finding one in your pocket change today isn't unusual. However, what is unusual is finding one in pristine or uncirculated condition, especially with strong luster, sharp details, and minimal wear. That's where value starts to rise beyond its face value of 25 cents. Let's now discuss the condition, often the biggest factor in determining a coin's worth. If your 1980 Washington quarter is in fine condition, it means it's seen moderate circulation. The high points of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers will show noticeable wear, but the overall design should still be clear and defined. In this grade, most coin dealers or collectors would value it at around 30 cents to 50 cents, depending on the market. That's not a fortune, but it's slightly above face value. However, if your coin happens to be in extremely fine, about uncirculated, or mint state condition, that's where the real collector interest begins to build up. In uncirculated or mint state grades, the 1980 no-mint mark Washington quarter can fetch anywhere from $1 to $10, depending on the specific grade assigned by a grading service like PCGS or NGC. Coins graded MS 65 or higher, with beautiful luster and no major blemishes, can bring in even more. Some specimens in MS 67 have sold for over $100 in past auctions. These are not common finds, but they do exist, often from original mint rolls or proof-like examples that were preserved carefully over the decades. So, even though it's a modern coin, condition and eye appeal can dramatically affect the value. Another aspect to watch for is varieties and errors. While the 1980 Philadelphia quarter doesn't have any major known design varieties, there are some interesting minting errors that can make your coin much more valuable. Examples include off-center strikes, broad strikes, double dies, and clipped planchets. Depending on the type and severity of the error, values can jump from a few dollars to several $100s or more. So, always examine your coins carefully under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Sometimes the smallest detail can make a big difference in value. Collectors are also drawn to the 1980 quarter because it marks the early years of the modern era of U.S. coinage, a time when the mint was refining its production techniques and transitioning toward higher-speed presses. It's also part of a decade that saw several subtle design modifications, making it a great addition to a complete Washington quarter date set. For newer collectors, it's a fantastic entry point into the hobby, inexpensive to obtain, yet rich in historical context. For experienced numismatists, it offers opportunities to hunt for those elusive high-grade examples or rare die varieties that could enhance any quarter collection. If you're wondering about how to store or protect your 1980 quarter, even if it's only worth a few cents more than face value, it's still a piece of history worth preserving. Always handle coins by the edges to avoid fingerprints and use non-PVC plastic flips or archival safe holders. If you believe your coin might grade above MS65 or has an unusual error, consider submitting it to a professional grading service for certification. It will both authenticate the coin and make it easier to sell or trade in the collector market. And who knows, you might discover you've been holding onto a small but valuable treasure all along. To wrap it up, the 1980 Washington quarter without a mint mark isn't rare in the traditional sense, but it's a fascinating piece of U.S. numismatic history. In fine condition, its value might hover just above face value, around 30 cents to 50 cents, while higher grades can bring several dollars or even more. It's a perfect reminder that every coin tells a story of artistry, production, and the economic history of its time. So next time you find a 1980 quarter jingling in your change, take a closer look. You might not just be holding 25 cents. You could be holding a small, shining chapter of American history. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of U.S. coins. Thanks for watching.